What does it mean for someone to be a person of faith? And how does an ordinary Christian reach such a level of faith that he or she becomes a saint? To answer some of these questions, we can look at the lives of the saints. The saints are relatable to us because they all have different personalities and come from a range of backgrounds. Like us, the saints began their lives as ordinary people of faith. So what is faith? Faith is defined simply as contact with the mystery of God. For Hildegard of Bingen, faith manifested itself as literal visions from God. Despite all of this, Hildegard actually had a relatively ordinary childhood. Hildegard was born in 1098 at Bockelheim in Germany. She was a rather sickly and weak child, suffering many illnesses throughout her youth. As a result of her poor health, Hildegard did not receive much formal education. Of course, there was definitely something special about Hildegard. When she was just 3 years old, Hildegard started having visions from God, and when she was just 8, Hildegard was placed under the care of Jutta, an anchoress of Count Menengard. Hildegard struggled tremendously during her time with Jutta, suffering many illnesses and struggling with her sight. Although her learning suffered due to her sickness, Hildegard eventually learned to read and sing the Latin Psalms. Later, when Hildegard was only 18, she joined the Benedictine order and was appointed superior when Jutta died in 1136. Hildegard truly represented the marks of the Church, one holy, Catholic, and apostolic church. She fought to have a man excommunicated from the church receive a proper Christian burial and maintain the unity in the church. She also committed herself to holiness and poverty, restricting herself to a tiny cell and humbly accepting the will of others and her superiors rather than her own. Hildegard is a person of God because she led through service and self-sacrifice. Hildegard's service was her constant prayer for others. She even hid some of her visions so she didn't bring any attention to herself. Hildegard was certainly an important teacher. In fact, she's a doctor of the church. During Hildegard's lifetime, she wrote many books on science, art, and religion. Her most famous work was the Scivias, in which she recorded all of her divine revelations about sacred scripture. Indeed, her book has contributed much to our understanding of scripture today. Hildegard was also a source of God's grace. She was a living symbol of holiness in humility, obedience, and unconditional love for others. Hildegard was a servant. She patiently listened to others, and she guided her peers towards holiness and closeness to God in her own humble example. And lastly, Hildegard was a saint because she prayed fervently and had a true love for God that surpassed human needs, illnesses, and wants. She was never afraid to let her love for God be the dominating force in her life. She will always continue to be an example to young women around the world and to all Christians.